Howdy guys, it's Luke at Geekgaming Scenics, and in this video we're going to be messing around with some clear resins and alcohol inks. I'll catch you after this. So guys, clear resins and alcohol inks is a well common knowledge that you can pigment your resins with that ink. My idea is to 3D print some models that the sponsor of this video has sent over, which is Crippled Foundry, and see if we can get a transition from like a dark bluey green up to a pale bluey green, or even let's go for a dark colour to clear. I want to see if I can do that, and also LEDs, lights, and mess around with a few things that I've always wanted to do but I've never been inspired enough to do it, and these models from Crippled Foundry this month got my juices flowing right away. So let's get cracking. Crippled Foundry have got a new Kickstarter campaign of fantasy 3D printable ruins and terrain. The Kickstarter is a canoe collection of modular buildings for your tabletop RPGs and wargames. It is old cathedral ruins, cursed forts, ruined bell towers, ruined buildings, barricades, survivors, and even wandering terrors. Now I'm really excited about this because it's optimised for resin printing, which makes me very happy inside. All links to the Kickstarter are below. So yes, Crippled Foundry, as soon as they sent me over their renders for this month, I was instantly inspired. Now, they've obviously painted them in Photoshop or something like that to get them to look like that. But this inspired me to, rather than paint them to look like that, I'd light the diorama to make them look like that. And this diorama base for these wraiths seemed like the perfect opportunity to have a go. So I threw them into Chichu box and sliced them ready to use on my new working Mars 3 printer. And with the printer I'm going to be using a brand new resin. This is by Resi1. It's a clear resin called G217. I've never used clear resins before, so I'm actually quite anxious about using a resin that I've never used before. But now, let's pigment it. So the inks we're going to add are some alcohol inks. I don't know how much we need to add, but trial and error, innit? It'd help if it opened it. Now the alcohol inks I was trying was quite transparent, so I needed to add about half a bottle to a full vat. That half a bottle gave me a very nice teal bluey green, which was going to be quite dark as a starting point. Now I know people are going to be asking about print settings. I exposed it at 4 seconds and the base layer was around 50. Clear resins do take a lot longer to expose than more opaque resins. Now once the printer got to 65%, I then paused the print. I decanted all the resin out into an empty vat, but I left about a mil or two in the vat itself. I then topped that up with clear resin, and I hoped that that would give us a nice transitioning colour. And that worked really well. I did have a slight fail on one of them. That could have been to do with the pause length or me just pouring resin in halfway through, I don't know. But the other two was successful, so I was very happy with that. And as you can see, they look pretty damn cool. It would be nicer that if I'd had left it to print a little bit longer, but I didn't know till I'd tried this. But I was very happy with the result in the end. When it came to cleaning, I cleaned them in ISO first and they came out cloudy. So I then tried methylated spirits, which is my preferred way to clean resins. It just seems to do it better. And they didn't cloud up at all, so if you are intending on cleaning your clear resins, do use meths. I couldn't find a deep picture frame from the pound shop, so I ended up going with this very thin one. And I hot glued the glass in. Now I'm doing this ahead of schedule because I don't know whether I'm going to add any resin to the glass or not, depending on how the light diffuses, depending on how bright it is. So I decided to just do this at this step now, so if I decided to pour resin on it, it would be more or less watertight. So to get the height so I could apply some LEDs underneath so there wasn't directly pointing upwards, I built a frame just out of some 1x1 wood. And I hot glued all that in place. Now I'm just using the basic LED light sets you can get off Amazon for like £5, and I stick them all around the inside. I do 2 wraps around. Now I point them inwards rather than towards the glass because the idea is I want the light to bounce up through the glass so it's quite diffused and soft rather than being really harsh and you see loads of little spots. However, when I put the clear base on, it was still pretty harsh, even with them turned quite down. So I decided to lay out the diorama and get an idea of what I need to do. So all the different bases that I tried, even on my misprints, I clipped all the skulls off because the idea was I was going to super glue them down before pouring all the resin on, so it gives it that sort of like spirits are coming out from the ooze below. And then I just painted the stonework on any of the clear bits that I wanted to keep clear, and I'm painting this very simply because I want the light to do most of the work. However, the only thing that I haven't done before is paint anything that's lit from beneath. So in my head, all I had to do was just dry brush the underside of all the stones and earth parts, and same with the models, as in I'll brush up and catch only the details that are leading forward over the place where she's going to be standing. Now the layout of this diorama is more or less inspired by the diorama that I printed off that's available from Crippled Foundry. I just super glued this to the glass. However, I wouldn't advise using super glue if you wasn't doing a resin pour on top of this. Super glue and glass don't stick very well. However, it works enough just to hold it in place till we do the resin pour. Now I've got all them fixed in place, I turned the lights on just to check to see how the paint job was looking, and I was pretty surprised, as in it looks pretty impressive to say I've not really done much. And it was missing something, so I decided to stick all the floating spirits on to simulate that they're all coming up and it's been summoned from beneath. They was quite fiddly to stick in with the super glue, but with a bit of persistence and some super glue activator, they stuck rather well. Now for the green ooze, I'm using exactly the same resin that we used to print models in, but I added a bit more green ink as I wanted it to diffuse the light quite well. However, it is very transparent, and I've never poured resin like this thickly. You've got to think this is about 3 to 4 mil thick, so it's quite a thick resin pour. This LED torch more or less skinned it over, which wasn't ideal, but what did happen was it caused a very rough water texture, as in like a very nice ripple. So what I did was, to actually cure it the whole way through, is I took it outside and left it out there for about half an hour, and that cured it completely through, and then we got a very nice disturbed water look. The highlights on the models I thought were a bit too strong, so I just dyed it down with the alcohol ink again, and I did a very final dry brush, but I only caught the extreme edges of where it were actually pale, but it was hardly noticeable. But I did it because I just wanted a few white specks, that's all. And the overall look was amazing. I'm happy that I've played, I'm happy that I've tried some new things, and I've learnt a few things in the process. A diorama like this is nothing that I've ever done before, but I'm happy that I've done it. If you've done something like this, do tag me on my Facebook page. I'd love to see what you've done. But let me know what you think to this in the comments below. So guys, I've really enjoyed this video. Crippled Foundry, when they sent through the STLs for me to look at, I were absolutely inspired instantly off their renders, just because of how they're lit, and I thought, can I recreate that? And that inspired me to have a go and a play. It's a bit crude is the model that I've built, but it's not the point of designing a perfect diorama. This video was just playing with clear resins and seeing what I can and can't do. This is a rabbit hole that I need to go down. So thanks for that inspiration, guys. If you don't know who they are, all the links to all the products are below, where you can get them on my mini factory. You can sign up to the Patreon. Also, you can check out the Kickstarter, where they've got a load of cool terrain that's also optimized for resin printing, and that's something that I'm very happy about, because terrain files are not normally optimized for resin printing, and people are starting to do it now, which is awesome. So if you're interested in any of that, all the links below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. If you want to support me, check out my shop where you can buy all your basing needs. I'll catch you again for the next video. Love, love, love.